Listen, laugh, and learn with Sacha and Ish as they share their experiences, thoughts, and tips to build skills that are not so average and a career that's not so ordinary. This is the Not So Breakfast Show.
All right, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, the podcast for leadership and career development. And today we are talking about distraction. And quite frankly, I was semi-distracted before we had to start recording again, didn't we, Sash? Because I completely went blank at the end of the intro, classic-ish moments. But we are talking about distraction. We're going to talk about in 3 different levels, because there are different levels with different impact. But Sash, it is great to have you back in NZ.
And I am stoked to be back in NZ. I've been away for a few weeks now overseas, and I've tried really hard to not be distracted while I was on holiday. I tried not to dip into my emails, not to turn my laptop on, just to stay focused on my holiday. And man, it's hard.
Wow.
It's really hard. I have just ruined my brain by feeding it little bits of candy all day, every day. So I'm really interested to talk today about what we can do to be not so distracted, not so unfocused, not so vague in our thinking looking forward to the good stuff you are going to teach us today, Ishmael.
Oh, brilliant. But did you feel recharged as a result of maybe not dipping into your email as much or on your phone as much?
Well, I had this really interesting I think it's interesting thing happen. I really unplugged from work, which felt amazing, but I've been back now almost 48 hours and it's really hard to plug back in. So previously, when I've been overseas, I still keep in touch with the team, and then when I come home, you just sort of pick up where you left off and you're running again. This time I'm like, who even am I? What do I do? I've just got so used to being a person that just swans around being on holiday. So it's nice, but it's a real challenge.
Oh, that's so interesting, because it is, you end up in those two minds sometimes when it comes to, say, like your email, where you go on holiday and you kind of dip in and out, but then when you get back, you don't have the tsunami because you're kind of on top of it, or you just go completely out, but then you just get drowned when you come back in those first few days. So probably planning those first few days and how you're going to be responsive to email and meetings and everybody's time and everyone that wants to talk to you is definitely part of planning a good holiday. But we are talking about levels of distraction today, and I've kind of thought about this in the dangers of distraction. I think when we get distracted in our work environment, it's so easy for our time to be eaten up, for our attention to be eaten up, but there is different levels and ways that we actually become ineffective as a result of these levels of distraction. So we'll start with the low-level distractors first, and then we can work our way up to the really high ones that are going to have massive impacts. So the first one, obviously, is just our phone. That device that we have in our pocket that gives us everything we perceive needing at any one time. It's like a pacifier. It soothes us. It comforts us. It's there like a best friend when you need it. But how easy is it all of a sudden to have what started as a casual few flicks through Instagram or in an email suddenly becomes all-consuming, and then minutes turn into hours, and then suddenly time goes by.
That is the most spooky thing that happens to me, is in the morning I'll wake up and I'll just check my email from bed. I mean, that's how, when you want to have a romantic relationship with me, hello, phone, first thing in the morning, scroll through the email, check out Twitter. I do this it's like doing the rounds. And my morning round, as if I was a doctor going to the wards of the hospital. In my morning rounds, I just check out Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, newsfeed, from a news source. We've got 2 main news sources in New Zealand. I'll check them both just in case there's different things in each of them. And then my emails. And then before I know it, 90 minutes can go by. Yeah. And I'm still in bed, just scrolling through, feeling busy, feeling informed, but I get to the end of the day and go, I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve today. Now, I know people are going, yeah, well, if you had a regular job and you had to be there, it wouldn't happen. And I just call bullshit on that. It happens to all of us, just at different times of the day. And one of the tricks for me is to recognise when I'm most vulnerable to it and try and put some processes in place that mean I don't do it. Is that how how do you deal with your phone distraction? You'll have some tips, I'm sure.
Turn it off. Is probably my main one. Or leave it behind. Like if it's in my pocket, even on silent, just the little wee phantom vibrations, and suddenly it's like, oh, was that a text message? And then because I got the watch as well, right? So then those little alerts, I do keep my alerts pretty much to a minimum, so I don't have any alerts for email or anything like that. It's just text and alarm. But yeah, I find it really hard. So if I am going out to a meeting where it might just be out with a coffee with someone, I just leave it at my desk. Is a really good option. That's probably the best way for me to not be distracted. But then I suppose there's the distraction going on and go, oh, where did I leave my phone? So suddenly you forget about it. But I think for me, I definitely haven't mastered it. So it has to be a thing. It's turned off or it's not with me. And then I can do the focus, because otherwise I think I'm like everybody. I'm just constantly just referencing it, especially if it's on a table or something. I remember someone saying to me, when you put your phone on a table, even face down in a meeting, you're basically saying to the person and everyone in the meeting that this is important to me, so I am going to just keep it right here, as opposed to maybe not bringing it into the room would have been a better approach.
Well, we had various times when we were away as a family on holiday. There's 5 of us, essentially all adults. Our youngest is 18. Our oldest is 57. That's our kind of age range. And at various times we'd be out for dinner and we'd all have our phones just next to us. And it's almost like people are waiting for the opportunity to do a bit of self-soothing. And I understand it, because we've been away for 3 weeks and we never spend that much time with each other. So people needed a bit of chill out time to self-soothe. But I loved in the social network when they shared that idea that if you're not paying for something, then you are the product.
Yes.
So if you are getting Instagram and Facebook and Twitter for free, it means you are the product that is being sold to the advertisers. Yeah. So I don't like the idea that I'm making someone else a whole lot of money by sacrificing my time in pursuit of these little wee endorphin hits. Yeah. So one of the things that's useful for me to put it down is to go, hang on, this is just like the equivalent of being a drug addict, just scrounging around looking for the next hit, the next endorphin rush, and particularly with something like TikTok. So I know TikTok is hugely popular, I get it, but I find myself watching things that if I didn't know they existed, I would be fine without it. So I find myself watching these like home renovations, or I'm watching a woman who's got 5 children teach us how she does her laundry, and I'm like, wicked, I don't have 5 children. Why are you watching this?
Yeah.
And it's not her fault as the content creator. It's my fault for just being a vacuum cleaner idiot, sucking up shit I don't need to know about.
Yeah. And if you are younger in sort of at your end of your school years and you're leaving to go to university, or you're coming out of university and you're a digital native, so you have grown up with your phone, be aware that your ability to pay attention is currency when it comes to building your career. If you cannot sit in the meeting without self-soothing, without that level of passive distraction that you need to have going on, that is something that's going to work against you. So you need to be able to recognize the fact that this could be even a low level of distraction, but if you can't pay attention, and I even saw it the other day just in a meeting I was in, and we were playing a very quick video clip. And the clip had been going, I reckon, 45 seconds. And there was about 5 people that pulled out their phone and checked a few things and then put it back. Like, that would be habit. That wasn't like there was something that happened. That was habit. I just need to see what's going on. So be aware of that. But then I guess the flip side is, if you're a little bit older in your career, realize that there is a generation coming through that has a low attention span and a low tolerance for things that are not engaging. that are not getting to the point, and don't waste my time by making me sit through this 40-minute session when you could have told me that in 7 minutes.
I'm just laughing because I thought you were going to say I was running a meeting and while I was talking, someone pulled out their phone.
No one does that to me, Sash.
Rude asses. Rude asses.
So then I think we know the phone one, and I'm going to do 2 more low levels of distraction, but I'm just going to glance over them, and then I think we get into the bigger stuff. But the next one is just poor time management. We're not chunking our time, stuff we've talked about so many times in this podcast, chunking your time into the time you're at your best, having a dedicated time to do the thing that you said you were going to do, making sure you're structuring your meetings correctly, all of that stuff that we just throw away time because we are unorganized. So a little bit of organization will actually go a long way to getting us to where we need to be, as opposed to just doing things reactively.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-Minute Presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-Minute Presenter program.
I think how that shows up for me is in my mental energy. So if I don't have a time that I do a particular task, I spend a lot of the day going, don't forget to. So in my brain, I'm distracted. I'll be say I'm writing an email, it's quite a long email, and a thought will pop in that says, don't forget to pick up lamb chops on the way home. And all through the day, that thought interrupts me. Whereas if at the start of the day or the night before I'd just written my grocery list out, my brain wouldn't be interrupting me. So I think the poor time management and how it becomes a distraction is that your brain is full of repeated thoughts that are unhelpful.
Absolutely. And then the next one is just like general clutter. So clutter on your desk. We've talked about this before. You know, it's just taking you 3 times longer to find the thing that you wanted to find because you didn't remember where you put it. Or your desktop is just full of files and you can't remember where you put it. So you end up spending 15 minutes trying to find the PowerPoint that you were working on the other day rather than actually having a little bit of organization. But it can go the other way. You're so organized that you've got files within files within files within files, and you still can't find anything because you filed it so well.
Yeah, I feel like this is an important thing that's true, but that it just doesn't apply to everybody. So, yeah, go on. What's
Especially
next?
you. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so those are our low-level distractions, stuff that we know we should get on top of, but they do eat up our time in quite a big way. The next one is like our mid-level distractions. So mid-level distractions are things like other people's issues. Now, sometimes we create our own monster with this because we are the person that people come to just say, oh, Sash, I just need to tell you something that's going on at the moment. Or, did you know what happened the other day? And it's like we just become this little wee gossip center. And so we listen to other people's problems and then we complain about the fact that people complain to us. And yet we give them every opportunity to do that. Or they come in and they pass the problem on to you. And as a result, we end up distracted because we were working on something, but now something seemingly more important has come along. And now that's the priority. So, yeah, that's more mid-level distraction.
Yeah, I think it's really good to recognise too what the payoff is. So the reason that people keep coming to us and the reason that we perpetuate this cycle is because on some level we all want to be needed. So when someone comes to us and goes, oh, I've got this problem and I'd like your help with it, our very human instinct is to have our ego needs met and we go, oh, yes, let me help you because I am the helper or I am the oracle or I know stuff. So it's a real human tendency to love that we've been asked for advice or asked for help, but it can distract us from the stuff that's most important for us to get done. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do that basically says to people, off your fuck, your problem, not mine.
Yeah, and controlling that environment around you so that you're not distracted. So maybe if you are working on something that's really important, work on the office where nobody else is, or go somewhere where there's nobody else so you can stay focused, because as soon as other people's issues start coming into it, it's going to be a problem. The next one is just not prioritizing. You don't actually know what your priorities are, so it's really hard to know what you should be focusing on. And as a result, we end up distracted because we're kind of, like you said before, we've got lots of things on our mind. I was doing some coaching with someone the other day and I said, okay, so give me your top priorities. And they listed like 15. It's like, well, that's not a priorities list, it's a to-do list.
That's a rugby team.
It's like, what is the priority? What is the thing that will, as long as you get that one or two things done today, will make a difference tomorrow? Don't give me your entire list. And to be fair, it probably wasn't even the entire list. It was just a list of 15 things. But your ability to go, what's important? What's important here, so that when the distractions come, and you get back on task, you know what you are going back on task to, that's going to make the biggest difference.
Yeah, and super useful to use a kind of a tool to establish your priorities. Because the risk is, if you are prioritizing by urgency, you only ever do the urgent things, and you just spend your entire time putting out fires. Because there will be something on the list every day that has to be done today. And if you're not careful and you don't have good time management, and time management is about saying, every week I need to do some urgent things, every week I need to do some long-term planning, every week I need to do some personal and professional development. And so just make sure, because let's take the example of, say, your own personal health and fitness or nutrition. Those are often not the most urgent thing at any time. So a prioritization list isn't an urgency list. So be careful about that.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Another one that could be mid-level distraction is just having, we'll just call them a bad manager, but probably just someone who's a little bit unorganized. So it's their inability to prioritize that all of a sudden causes your distraction because you're not quite sure what you should be working on. And if you're newer to a role, it shows up very quickly because you can't quite figure out, let's like, what am I supposed to be working on again? I keep getting told that this is important, or I keep getting given other tasks that now seem to be the priority. So by taking responsibility as managers, as leaders, to be clear in what we want our teams to be focusing on, we can eliminate that for them. And if you are being managed by a manager that does that, have the conversation. Literally sit down and say, look, I'm confused about what I'm supposed to be working on as a result of the meeting we've just had. I thought it was this, it's now this. Can you give me some clarity? Because I don't want to be wasting either of our time. You know, and it is really good to be able to have those conversations because it will help that manager, leader, probably set you up for more success.
Yeah, love it. Take responsibility for getting the clarity that you need.
So then our next one, which is the high level of distraction. And this is ones where it's not really eating up your time in the way that the low level distractions or maybe our mid level distractions. But these are the ones that can have massive impact in what we are meant to be delivering. So the first one is shiny object syndrome. Now, I don't know if it's a real syndrome, but it's a term that I used to hear a lot in business.
I like the sound of it.
Let's just call it a real syndrome. But shiny object syndrome is where you're just distracted by, I could be doing this, or I could be doing that, or I've had this other idea. And as a result, we end up looking at lots of different things or starting lots of different things. And as a result, we don't get anything done. It distracts us from what we were primarily either employed to do, primarily supposed to be focusing on to do, and we need to unpick why are you being distracted by all of these other things that are around.
I think it's particularly relevant these days, and I've heard it expressed in two different other ways. The first is the paradox of possibility. That the more possibilities there are for you, the less effective you can be. And, you know, one of the key pieces of work that comes out of studying the guys who are intense about their success is their ability to focus. Yeah. They are single-minded about doing one thing. Now, that might be at the extreme end, but I think there's a lot that we can learn from those guys. And they do tend to be men, and that's part of their privilege, is that someone else is doing the cleaning and the cooking and they're just doing the work. But what it means is they are able to go to the exclusion of everything else. I put my focus in the one place. So they are shutting down other possibilities all of the time. So the paradox of possibility is we live in a time now where it's possible for just about anybody to do just about anything. And as a result, we can wake up and be 62 and go, oh, what's happened to my life? What's just happened now? Because we haven't been deliberate enough about what we're doing. And the other way that's expressed is the paralysis of possibility. That the fact that there are so many choices can mean that you end up choosing nothing and actually just being stuck where you are.
Yeah, and I think with this shiny object syndrome, one of the ways to just check in on yourself is maybe just at the end of the week go, what did I finish this week? And what did I start?
Oh, I love that.
Because that simple awareness for... if you are busy doing stuff, you want to make sure that it's not stuff that's just being done just for the sake of doing it. And now we're distracted because we think Sasha's getting a fax. Are you getting a fax message? I need to know what it is now.
Sorry. I think some random in my house is printing to the printer. It does sound
just
like
ignore
a fax,
that.
so I'm just going to ignore it. I'm not going to be distracted by that noise.
Yeah.
I'm just focusing on this.
So that little
This
audit
only.
that you do, the check in and go, what am I starting? What am I finishing? What was I looking at this week? And why was that important all of a sudden? Or what was that thing that just came along? Because if we are heading in a direction, especially as you get higher up in leadership, and you need to be pretty clear that we're going in this direction, all of those little things that come along the side, part of your equity as a leader is being able to go, no, maybe, not yet, stay on track, yes.
That's the power of no, right? No. I love that what you just said. No, maybe, not yet. No,
Yeah,
not
let's
yet.
get this done first.
That's,
and
that's
especially
so
if you haven't actually proved to yourself that it's a bad idea, because sometimes you do get to the end of it and you go, it's time to stop and we should be looking at something else. But other times it's like, you didn't even get there because you went off in another direction and you could have completely derailed yourself by looking at something shiny. The next one is disengagement. You are actually disengaged from your job and therefore you're not delivering on your KPIs, your measurables, the things that you were employed to do. And disengagement is something that can sometimes creep in. So you might be working on something, but you're constantly being distracted by other things. And it could just be because you've completely lost interest in what you're actually working on. And as a result, you are, disengaged. And if your KPIs are set and your measurements are set, and that's what you live and die by, you get exposed really, really quickly because you are focusing on other stuff.
I think this ties in super nicely with the shiny object syndrome too, because the more disengaged you are, the more attractive other things look. So if you think about even in a personal relationship, even like with kids as an example, if you're feeling just a little bit pissed off with your kids, other people's kids seem amazing. They seem like kids who hand their homework in on time and wear their uniform correctly. And you can really misjudge everybody's personal situation because from the outside, other things look shiny. So other people's marriages look like they are going better, or other people look like they would treat you differently. And you get really distracted when you are unplugged from the relationship that you're in. And it's exactly the same with the work role. The more unplugged you are, the more those other things look to be appealing because you're not looking at things through an appropriate lens.
Yeah.
But the trick is always to recognise it,
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
Is to recognise, go, hey, why? If you're in a job but you keep going on to job websites to move elsewhere, that's telling you something about your current role.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard it also explained like back in church days where they would say, like a coal that comes out of the fire quickly goes cold. And they're kind of saying that basically if it's disengaged from the mass, it's on its own. Of course it's going to lose its spark and lose its heat. And it's similar when it comes to your engagement at work. If you are completely separating yourself all the time, you're not interested in engaging with people, quickly you become disengaged, quickly you become cold, quickly you lose your impact because you're losing your heat and you're basically just operating in a silo. The last one in our high-level distractions is that you actually have an unclear vision. So you're not actually sure what it is you're trying to achieve. Now, again, the further up in the leadership journey, the more important it is to have that crystal clear vision and then your ability to cascade that down. But if you even think about your day-to-day, like what is your vision for what you want to be working on? What is your outcome? So becoming outcome focused. Like what's this, begin with the end in mind, Stephen Covey's first habit of highly successful people, of his 7 habits. Is that the first one?
I think it's the second, but who's quibbling? Who's counting? I mean, me, but don't worry about it.
What?
Still true. Still
so
good.
One of Stephen Covey's habits of highly effective people, it's begin with the end in mind. Like know where you're going. Like be crystal clear on what success looks like.
100%. And there's times where you go, good enough is good enough. There's other times where you go, it needs to be closer to perfect than not. But being clear about that enables everyone to stay focused and not distracted by stuff that's not important. And what's important changes depending on the context. And I think that's what's hard sometimes to understand. So you're in a team and you really want to do great work and your leader or manager comes in and goes, that's good, we can ship that. And you go, no, I want it to be better. No, right now shipping is most important. Then on other occasions, you're happy with it and the leader says, that's shit, we can't ship that. You go, that's so confusing. Well, it's not confusing if you've had clarity at the start. Hey guys, what's important right now is that this ships on Friday. Yeah. It's more important that it ships on Friday at 70% than ships on Monday at 90%. Because if we ship it Monday at 90%, we've missed the Saturday, Sunday sale.
And for those of you that listen to us from overseas and know our accent, we're saying ship as in boat.
What else might it be?
No, shit as in poo. That's right. The shit's on Friday.
I was in Zurich a couple of days ago shopping, and that was a mistake. Zurich is one of the most expensive cities in the world. So I should say I was window shopping. I soon worked out that I wasn't going to be parted with my cash. And this beautiful, beautiful woman was serving me. And she was from the Philippines. And I thought we had a real strong connection going. It was great. We were chatting about New Zealand and the Philippines, and she was helping me, and it was all great. And as I walked away, I heard her say to her work colleague, oh, those New Zealanders, impossible to understand, aren't they? I'm like, what? We had a thing going on here, lady, and evidently we did not have a thing going on.
That's so good. All right, so let's recap through that. Our low-level distractions are pretty simple. It's your phone, your poor time management, your desk clutter, and I'm sure you can come up with a list of at least another 10, but just that stuff that happens day to day. Then we've got our mid-level distraction, which is other people's issues, not prioritizing, or you've got a bad manager. So what are we going to do about that to make sure that we're not throwing away time and focus? And then the next one is our high-level distractions. So shiny object syndrome, constantly looking at other stuff because you think that's going to be the next thing that you should be focusing on, or you don't want to finish what you're doing. Disengagement is another massive high-level distraction, and then unclear vision. And that could be because you're working for someone and you don't know what the vision is. Well, maybe have a conversation about that. Or you're not clear in your own vision, or you're an entrepreneur and you need to get more focused and more clear so that you know what you should be spending your time on. So good chat about distractions, Sash.
Yes, do not be distracted, people. Recognize when your attention is wandering. And there's a bunch of things you can do to help have more focus. And that idea that Ish said right at the start, put your phone down, put it away. Challenge yourself to read a chapter in a book.
Good.
Because we are losing our ability to do that. And, I'm a reader freak from a long time ago, and I realize how much brain damage I've literally done. I find it hard to read a chapter in its entirety now. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, I've been poisoning my brain with these little sugar hits that some dumb fuck who's doing up a house in Idaho, and I get sucked into watching it. And I'm just like, wow, I am my own worst enemy. Apologies, content warning, triggers against the swears. I'm probably still jet-lagged-ish.
Hey, so I got some reading glasses the other day.
Did you?
I did, because I have been distracted with my own eyes. Because I've all of a sudden just clocked at how often I'm like having to lean right into the screen or I just can't quite read something. And I thought, I'm going to do something about that. So I got some, and then I realised I've just got the male version of your glasses.
Have you? Let's see. Put them on.
I go,
How cool are you?
so, but
Oh, wow.
now I'm just going, we're literally the same person.
We're just siblings. That's wicked. People will be distracted if they look at our photo now.
Oh.
They'll go, "No, can't tell any
Can't tell them
difference."
apart, so I won't be
We
able
could
to.
do that face swap thing.
Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with them though, because I can see things very easily now.
And I think the people you work with will be happy too, because it was getting awkward how close you were getting to their face to be able to read their whether they were smiling or not.
Just like
I've
right
seen
up.
the petition going round Les Mills. Please get Ish to stand back.
Right, so I'm not sure if you got to see any movies on the plane, Sash, but I went and saw Indiana Jones the other day.
And your
The Dial of
verdict?
Destiny. I particularly enjoyed it. Now, Joe was struggling a little, and I think it was mainly because she hadn't really been into Indiana Jones. However, I loved it because I kind of went in and I don't think I was expecting much from it. But the first setup of that first 30 minutes where they use CGI to make him look young again and they set up the whole show, I was like, man, that was cool. It was seeing Harrison Ford as as young Indiana Jones just took me back. Apart from the running on the top of the train CGI that just looked too fast and a little bit like a game, the rest of it was amazing, and it filled me with joy for the future of movies and what they're actually going to be able to produce, because things are, but amazing now with LED screens for backgrounds and yeah, all of that kind of stuff. I did really enjoy it.
I'm really enjoying the screen writers and actors being on strike, which is pretty cool, because basically if all of the millionaire and billionaire executives, if they all took a 2% cut, it would fund everything that the writers are asking for. And some of the stuff that's been in the contract, super scary, right? So they can use all of your image, they digitize it, and then they can use you and not pay you for every time they use you from now on. So it's some pretty, I think the AI stuff is fascinating, exciting, incredible, and also dangerous to human actors if it's abused. So I think it's a really interesting time as we sort of traverse all this. I watched some amazing movies on Swiss Air in particular, and Portia, our daughter, was sitting next to me, and she watched Avatar without having any sound. It just looked absolutely ridiculous. It just looked like my school project of animation. And I kept looking over and just laughing and going, what even is that? And she said, oh no, it was quite good. I'm like, was it? Did you see Avatar, the new one?
Yeah, and I absolutely loved it, but I saw it on the big screen. But does she watch everything with subtitles on?
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah, same with my girls. Constant. And I keep going, why have you got subtitles on? They go, I just like
just
them.
easier. Yeah, they have got used to it.
I find it distracting.
Yeah, so then they can read it faster than you hear it, and then they can do something on their phone while they wait for the screen to change. The young people today, the youth of today, don't even get me started.